Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well today. Just wanted to take some time a little bit later today than I have done these, but it's okay because today is Monday. I believe it's still August the 10th. Seems like our days are going by so fast. Just can't keep up. So just a little, we're in the middle of going through the unlikely gospel. We're about halfway through this first little section that we have for the Gospel of Luke. The titles that we've given this is the unlikely gospel. Last week we journeyed with Jesus from Jerusalem to Nazareth. And then in between we saw a frantic mother, Mary, who thought she lost her son. A frantic even Joseph, who thought he lost the child that he was ordained by God to protect. And then we see a 12-year-old Jesus fully aware of who he is. We see him in the temple being fully aware of who he is. We also found the first recorded words of Jesus in the Bible. We found those in the Gospel of Luke. In Luke 2:49, those words he said as mom found him, as Joseph found him. In Luke 2:49, the first recorded words of Jesus, he says, "Why were you searching for me? Didn't you know that it was necessary for me to be in my Father's house?" Luke 2:49, the first recorded words of Jesus. And we also see in those words that Jesus was fully aware of who he is on earth. And so it was necessary for Jesus to be in worship. That's one thing that struck out to me as we studied this in small groups, preparing for Sunday morning worship time as we gather together on Sunday morning at 11, was it was necessary for Jesus to be in worship. It was necessary for Jesus to be in small group Bible study. That's where we find him in Luke 2:49. It was necessary. He said, "Don't you know it was necessary for me to be about my Father's work?" And so how necessary is it for you to gather and worship? How necessary is it? Is it something that you chalk up to like going to the grocery store? Is it something you miss? How necessary is it for you to gather as a child of God, to gather with his church? And so in Luke 4:16, we picked up 18 years later. We got in our DeLorean and traveled 18 years pretty quick in one morning. And we see, as it says there in Luke 4:16, as usual, Jesus went to worship. It was something that was expected. It was something that he did. It was something that his parents on earth did. It wasn't because they were raising Jesus that they went to worship. It was because they were faithful and obedient to God they went to worship. It was necessary for Jesus to be about his Father's work. It was necessary. He said, "I must be about my Father's work. I must be in my Father's house." Just think about that for a second. Is that necessary for Jesus to be in his Father's house doing his Father's work? And if you're a child of God, if you've been saved by grace, then your Father in heaven has work for you. Is it necessary? Do you find it necessary to be with his people, worshiping him, to be about his business? So what about you? Do you find it necessary to gather and worship and to be about your Father's business? That's one question I ask myself and ask other people. And so this week we're going to explore Luke chapter 3, verses 21 through 38. And we're also going to look at Luke 4, 1 through 13. We're going to see Jesus at his baptism. We're going to see Jesus in the wilderness and temptation. And we're kind of calling this the unlikely beginning. We think it's the unlikely beginning, but it's kind of likely. Have you ever been called by God to do something and then you go through the wilderness? Sometimes before you go through a time of preparation. But in the Bible, the wilderness is not a bad thing. The Bible, all through the Bible, we see God's people going through the wilderness and being alone with him. And so the unlikely beginning of Jesus' ministry from baptism to wilderness. So I hope you'll join us. I hope you'll read up in Luke chapter 3, verses 21 through 38, Luke 4, 1 through 13. I hope you'll join us. I hope you can maybe sign up for small groups at SeminoleHeights.org. SeminoleHeights.org. Click on to sign up for small groups. I really want to beat that drum real loud, play that trumpet, blare that horn real loud, that small groups are important. Jesus was involved in Bible study. We would encourage you to, and also for you to gather with us on Sunday mornings at 801 East Hillsborough Avenue. We take precautions. We know we live in a COVID world, but we want to gather together and we want to worship the Lord. And so I'm really excited about this as we explore the life of Christ through the Gospel of Luke. So I hope you'll join us, and I hope you have a super Monday. God bless.